All right, we are back. Boot up your Fusion again. Look through some of the submissions. It's not class time, so they don't all have to be here, but everybody looks pretty on track. There's the ability to turn on and off symmetry. So like when I look at a couple of these, like symmetry's turned on, symmetry's turned off. That's okay. It's definitely going to be easier to have consistency between your left and your right pieces if symmetry's turned on. Let me see if there's any like kind of aesthetic suggestions I would make on some of these. Like this is just getting your feet wet with Fusion. I'd make the head of that a bit wider. Really just grabbing that face and pulling it. Yeah. Keller getting fancy. Look at this. It's like, I'm going to look at video. Cool. Always like seeing a little extra. I'd make the hammering portion, the business end of the hammer, a little bit bigger, flatter. But everybody got the main idea of what to do here. Today is a continuation of that style, but obviously more complex. All right, I guess we'll jump into it. So need a new document. If you're in SolidWorks, right, you change the units down here. If you're in Fusion, you change the units under document settings. The reason why I do everything in millimeters in this program is, I guess, for my own enjoyment, because I use the manufacturing portion and my CNC machine runs on millimeters. So if I want to make anything producible, it needs to be in millimeters. So I typically stay right here, just so you know it. All right, we need another image. I threw it on the page. So let's see. Insert, canvas. It's a downloaded object. I already threw it on my downloads bike body, so you can get that on Microsoft Teams. We'll throw it on the same plane, and like yesterday, I scaled it 15. Drop down the opacity. Like I want to see it, but it's only there like it's a temporary reference, so I don't need it to be that pronounced. Just need to see the contrast between the wall. I bet this is a very expensive bike. Regardless, we're going to model it today. So once again, we are in the form creation part of the program. Let's see. I don't want to finish form, but I do like seeing the origins. That way when I click on a plane, I know where I'm going. We'll take a little bit different direction in terms of setup today. The reason why we're doing this is because we have these creases and then we have flat surfaces. And so we are going to do hard work in the beginning so we have easy work later. When we're modifying and changing and adding like a crease, it's more of a sharper rounded edge. We just need data in here. Other parts that are pretty flat, that are rolled over. So simple, simple. This guy's being more complex, and I'll show you how I went about doing that. So we are within the form function. I'm going to get on my plane. I'm going to use, this is not necessary, but I'm going to use a sketch just to kind of throw out these lines. Hope it's a bit of a guide for me. Some of these pieces I'm going to intentionally omit, so we're not going to do the shaft that goes up to the seat, and we're not going to do the front forks. You can kind of see how this body line would continue here, so aesthetically it's a nice choice, but they would come back up and do like a Boolean operation here to cut that out and put the post. The post itself has to be like, these are very specific measurements in here, and we'll cover that probably next class. Is going to be a pretty lengthy tutorial. What is this? See something. How fancy. Carbon fiber probably. But this measurement has to be a certain number, and as you can tell with the sculpt function, it's a bit gooey. Like the best part about it is it's soft and it transitions really well. It's more difficult to get a distinctive measurement, but we'll cover that eventually. We're just not covering that part today. Let me go okay on that. I might move that point just a touch because I'm not doing the column. And this is going to just serve as a reference points for me. Good old interpolate points. Okay. Modification. And this is where I'm going to pay a little bit of special attention to. because you see how it transitions into nothing, like that's a cylinder, and that's distinctly not a cylinder. This is where I need that extra information, and I'm setting it up now, so I don't have to set it up later. Okay, and one more line. Once again, these are just references. I will not be using these lines like to make a surface or a loft. Okay, and just kind of tighten these up a little bit. So imagine like if this was a diamond, so point at the top, point at the bottom, and on the left and a right point, then you radiused. I'm putting these lines on the edge of the radius, so it's like rounded, flat, rounded, and then flat. So right when, I guess what it becomes tangent, I think that's the right word here, where the line quits being part of a curve and becomes flat again, that's where I'm dropping this line at. Okay, those are good. Finish the sketch. Now sketches are gonna live here. I'm gonna turn them off as soon as I quit using them, but these guys are to help a bit of guidance. With this approach, you want to do the most complicated section first. They're kind of all equally complicated. I'll start with the bottom one because it has this little extra part, but very similar to the hammer. Let me see. Am I drawing on? There we go. That surface, and here we go. I can start dropping these lines in. So there's a reference, but it's not. I'm not actually using those lines for construction. Now, if I'm not spot on with these lines, it's perfectly okay. I can come back and edit them later. I'm also trying to keep these cross-section lines perpendicular. So vertical, slightly leaning, slightly leaning, slightly leaning. And that's just to keep like continuity and make sure it looks a bit prettier. Uh-oh. Bad one. It's okay. Yep. If this happens, it means I kind of exited. It's not a sketch, but I exited the operation. Now I've got to get back into it. So I had to just pick the plane. Things are going to be okay. We are going to be fine. Did I miss that? All right. I can go back and fix that in a second. Just making a little bit of errors today. And extend that down. This is my problem child. All right, and you know what? I'm just gonna get rid of that surface. I could weld a vertices. So why is it letting me do it now? It's because there's points existing. When you got to draw on the canvas, it is a little bit more, not unfriendly, just less cooperative. Let me see. I'm still in the draw face mode, right? Cancel. Right. So we're seeing like once you hit OK, the points, the more angular style of drawing the faces turns into what is now a T-spline surface. Right. It's not exactly laying where I want it to, but we'll do all the small modifications in a little bit. Come back over. Important thing to know, actually really important. I want to have the same number of points as I go. Think back to when we did, I guess, lofting from a circle to a square. A circle has lots of points on it, keeping it circular, and a square has 4. So when you're trying to loft between the two, there's a lot of hard decisions that the software has to make. It's like, well, I'm trying to go from like 8 points on my circle to 1 point on my square. So how do I deal with that transition? Well, we're going to avoid it having to think really hard by just giving it data in the first place. There we are again. Got to pick my face. All good. 1, 2, 3, 4. And while I might be going a little bit fast, I know I can come back and sharpen some things up. And I could have done this top section next, but it's just easier for me to reference the points that I already have existing. And we will do our last section. All right, nothing is 100% permanent, so when I'm making these, I can go back and make the changes at my discretion. I wonder if you can hear the clicks of my my mouse. Am I recording? Yes. Great. There's nothing like doing another lesson after you do a lesson. It hasn't happened in a while, but you know, I like to avoid that confrontation. All right. Great. Everyone's done. I can hit OK. It's going to turn smooth. Now, with the smooth one, I can come back in, modify. Right. I'm going to click on these vertices. I guess I could pick on the lines. No, let's do vertices. That's what I really need to edit. Right. Just making these small adjustments. It's like the hammer, but more complicated. Right. I want to do all the hard work now while it's in 2D, because it will get more complicated when you move to 3D. All right, how are we doing over here? Yep, changed it on the fly. That's totally okay. That's my bottom line. I need to pull you in some. There we go. Relatively straight, right? It corrected some of that for me. I appreciate it. And I'm getting a bit off of my design intent. Will you just move? My goodness. All right. That's the hardest part of today, right? Setting up this guy. So I'm going to say, okay, for this for right now. I'm going to go and make the other parts, and then we're going to work together on how you're going to bridge or merge these other components together. But I don't need a sketch for these. These are going to be pretty straightforward. Pick the plane we're going to be operating on. Yeah, these guys do need to connect at some point. You know what I said earlier about do the more complicated one first? Yep. About that. Because this has this extra geometry here, I don't want to limit myself by doing a very simple one up top. So we will start from down here. Yes, we're on this plane. Thank you very much for asking. I'll reconcile this later. This is a little more complicated because we got to think we can't see the frame. But we'll say it drops down to right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can always add more later. I can extrude off of what I have. All right, we are simple up to where it starts diverging. Once again, trying to stay perpendicular to where I'm going. We're gonna go easy on this one because we're not really talking about how to like cut things off later. Ideally, I would continue this. That way I have good continuity and good body lines. But for today, we will cut it a bit shorter. Okay. So now that I have the information I probably wouldn't have given myself in the first place. 1, 2, 3, go to here. Try to keep perpendicular. Excuse me while I grab a sip of water. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Gotta stay hydrated, folks. This is hard work. Ooh, this is a tough decision, right? Because I've got to make another piece there. I'm going to go kind of halfway and trust that its curvy nature is going to fix that in the very end. All right, that part is done. And which one's more complicated, left or the right? The right is more complicated. And we will go to here. Decisions. I'm going to wait for my decision just a little bit longer. I just know they're going to touch. We'll work on that back side in a second. We've got to also think how these back forks are going to integrate. Right, anything that I'm slightly off on, I still haven't even got to the point where I'm moving these lines around, so I'm okay with this. This is working out here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. How shall we address this back side? I know the forks are going to come in. How can I make this 4? Maybe there's 2 sections. I want that to come into 1 section. Okay, so we'll make a pretty big one on the bottom, and then a small one up top. Now it's always looking for 4, which I respect that, but it's also a bit more challenging when you only need 3. I'll show you a workaround in just a little bit. This guy kind of connects right here, so maybe I need to pull that guy back up. I'm gonna hit OK, make the modification. So you will just scoot out a touch. That face is going to be pretty important when we get to that part. Okay, that works. So how do we, there's 1, 2, 3 lines. I need a total of 4 out of them. Yep, see what I'm going for? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And right, the entire thing is, so to speak, fudgy and soft and smooth. I'm making up words. All right, last part is this front column. I do want to continue this line as far as I can get there. So where's my modify? Cancel that. Modify. Right, want to bring that line, that body line as far as I can. There we go. Well, that kind of helped solve some of this question, right? So 1, 2, I'll have 2 vertical, and then box. Okay. Making decisions on the fly. I need to choose a plane. 1, 2, we'll cut back in like it does. And there's 4. And 2 boxes. Right, we would trim that off with a later operation. Okay, so why aren't we doing these back forks? Simple, because they're separate. Right now we're doing the main body. Just like with the hammer we discussed with those forks. We could, but I think it's wiser to do these as their own piece. Mirror them or symmetry them, work on it, turn off symmetry, and then connect them back. So, is there anything I need to make in terms of, all right, let's go back and make some quick modifications to this guy. I didn't do as bad as I thought I did. Just being real with y'all. All right, big surface back here to mess with. It's a very important component. Let's get you up here. You're going to notice like box mode and smooth mode, they're pretty good friends, but they don't always resemble each other. A little touch up here. Okay. I think we're pretty good. Look at it in the ISO. So we're going to look at it in symmetry. Look at it as one kind of mirrored, half on the left, half on the right, in just a second, but we're not going to continue to work with it in that way. I'll speak to it when we get to the back forks. So canvas is off, looking pretty good. Actually, I'm done with the sketches, so I'm going to turn that off as well. So you think, I can go straight to thicken and pull this out, and that's great, but I only need half. Right? I still want to have the ability to address half of the model, and this is going to round the entire thing over. That's not what I want right now. I'd really like a center line to edit from. So until I learn a better way to do this, we're going to extrude it, and I don't know how to select all the pieces. So even though I tried the different selection, if you find it out, I will be in your debt. But considering this is only once that we have to do this, I guess I don't mind selecting all the buttons. Ta-da. Ooh, come here. We're actually going the wrong direction. You mind if I do a -3? Would that bother anyone? I hope not. All right. I want to keep it pretty thin, mostly because I'm fixing to manipulate this kind of center section of surfaces. And this is, I guess, one of the most important reasons why we did it in this style. Because I would have to go in and add a crease, and you see, like, it would work here, but we transitioned to kind of a funny area over here. So that's why I think this is a good approach on this style of modeling. Headphone adjustment. All right. Am I cool with 3? I might. -2.5. Just make it a little bit thinner. All right, cool. Now, you're like, Ben, symmetry? No, not just. Hold on. Hold on a minute. I'm going to select these lines. Modify. I don't want the vertices. I want the lines themselves. There we go. Right? I can move this up. Right? Now I'm adding more aggression in terms of visual brand language and style. Oh, no. Let's get back to my lines. And this is why I did the harder setup. And so I'd have control over these pieces. Now, orbiting. Very important. Now that I'm up here, take you down just a notch. Get those lines back. Doing it far enough. I want it to kind of sit in the middle, but I want it to be more fierce than that. Right, this is what I'm kind of staring at. That highlight. I don't want to rotate it, just want to do these small adjustments. And I bet I can drop you down just a notch. Looking better from right back there. I'm going to tuck you in just a touch. Now, granted, this is all aesthetics, but we had to set up the geometry in a certain way. Okay. But Ben, what about this part? I don't really want to do this part. It's too hard. It's like I need another split. I need a little bit more control over that point. Let's go vertices. That way I can have a little bit, finer adjustment here. Yeah. Tighter, and we'll see if we can get you to have a little bit of a bulge. All right. Really, I feel like I need one more point of information, but you get the idea of how if you want a creasier surface, you need to have the data for it. All right, I'm good with this. Preview. I don't want to stay like this. I'd have to undo it later, but symmetry, we want a, this is if you have an internal, like you have an existing model and you want a symmetry to the left and the right, like we do with the hammer. This one is to add either another object or like the other half. So T-spline body, here's your benefit of developing on the plane. I'm pretty good with that, right? I got my aggressiveness up top. It's still kind of softy. Right, we can modify this, but we're going to continue to the back forks. Now, I don't want to leave it like this, mostly because we'll have some issues when I start trying to, how do I say, fuse the back forks into the rear of the frame. So we're going to hold on to this as it is for the moment. And I don't need to finish the form per se. I just need to add like a new body. So canvas is back on. Back here, going to be a bit more simple. I'm not going to sketch it out. Do I want... We'll keep it more simple. I need to move that down. All right. Tough decisions, right? We're going to integrate this into the body later. Don't have to do it yet. Just it needs to be on my mind on things to work with. This back element, you can't really split like that. All right. We're going to kind of shortchange it just a notch. All right. I'm going to hit OK, go back in here, and do some modifications, get it a bit more closely aligned. Don't orbit me. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Rice is nice. Okay. Kind of wavy here. Wavy Davy. And setting up for this integration in just a little bit. All right. Not going to finish form because finish form takes you back into the rest of the design functions. But what I need to do is, right, I don't mind it having both sides. So thicken very conveniently works here. How much? I don't know. I think 5 might be too much. How about negative 0.4? No. Try again. Negative 4. All right. That's easier to work with. All right, so in terms of integration, this one should be pretty fine, right? I'm going from a 4 to a 4. Here I need to think about it a little much. We'll see what that relationship looks like. So when you're making these connections or like even bridging, I like to go into box mode. Why? Because I can see all the faces. Oh, you want to ask like, what I need to go into box mode? Like everybody, come on. Ooh, look at that. Ah ha ha. Means I got an email. No big deal. Okay. This isn't terrible. Actually, fixing it's pretty easy. You know, modify, get the vertices that I need to move, and move it. I like to move it. Right, just a small change. Tell me, all y'all are tucked in like that? Let me do a little preview before I. Like, it definitely works. Like, it didn't break the T-spines model. I think that took some of my edginess out. Yeah, this needs more of Ben Bush's attention. Okay, back to box mode. What's important right now is setting up these back edges. Right now we are straight up sitting on that plane. If I mirrored it, right, there's going to be no space between. So we got it here. I want to select the entire, double click. I'm going to move it away, give myself a little bit for a thin tire. And how about we rotate in like 5 degrees? There we go. Right, that way you have space for a tire, a back wheel to fit in. Now this angle adjustment might need a little adjustment on here, but I think we can reconcile that. Okie dokie. I'm gonna modify that face, move it in some, even with a slight bit of, where's my rotation? Just a touch, not you. Okay, yeah, you're good. We will accept this surface. I'm gonna maybe widen out that vertex. There we go. And if it doesn't mind, just a little kick here. All right. Let's see how this bridge would work. Bridget. Bridget, that's a lady's name. All right, same starting point, same direction, same merge. Now, just to make sure nothing's terrible. It's having, in my opinion, a bit too much control. I can reduce that in just a little bit, but it's okay for the moment. What I need to do is come down and operate on this lower half. Because this junction is maybe bigger, I really can't tell because I don't have the entire drawing. Option 1, I'm going to go from this point to this point, see how it looks. If it's fine, I'll leave it. If not, what I might do is merge these two together and see if it likes going to a bigger section. So, step 1, we're going to bridge U to U. Still works. Do we have the same starting point? No, we do not. Same starting point, same direction. There we go. Same starting point, same direction. Good. Once again, all right. And a little bit of a clustering there, but I'm okay with it. I'm going to do a preview of don't finish form. Another kind of symmetrical preview, mirroring over there. Right. This is good. I think that, yes, these are a little bit too tight. Actually, I could live with that one. The top one, you see how we have a bit of an overlap. We got to do a little bit of surgery over here. Bottom's okay. Top needs some work. So I'm not willing to duplicate it yet, but I do want to simplify things just a touch. The more simple, the more smooth, right? So I'm going to get rid of 1, 2. You got to get rid of everybody in that sequence for it to relax. See it relax when I get rid of that last and that fourth one? Turn off my canvas again. Let me get rid of 1, 2, 3, and it's this line that I'm a little bit unhappy with. Alright, I can move it back, out, slightly rotated, relaxing the surface. Can we widen it some? I think you might. That's scaling. How about that direction? That's okay. If I delete it, will it relax even more? Wait for it. Yeah. So getting rid of it, not the best option. Just working on relaxing some of this surface. A little rotation. Okay. Here's my last little modification on here. All right. We'll leave it alone. I think that's fine. This is the one that's going to need a good deal of work, in my opinion, just the way it's integrating. All right, I like that. Now let's see if I got rid of this one. Will I like it more? I'm okay with that. All right, good transition. Now, we're going to mirror it and actually keep the mirror. So symmetry, mirror duplicate, body, that plane. Okay. So we're having some issues back here. I'm fine with this connection. Actually looks pretty strong. I'm not okay with this one. Like, it's impossible to weld. So here we are. We're going to do a little bit of surgery again. I'm going to go back to box mode so I can just see what's going on a bit easier. Alrighty. And in order for me to get the left side and the right side to play nicely with one another, I got to turn symmetry off. Clear symmetry, this object. Okay. And like, really all the symmetry is done. I'm going to save myself a little bit of a headache. I want these to be in the middle, right? If it's symmetry, it really should be, have a center axis. But as soon as I hit merge vertices, it's going to pick the left or the right. So what I want it to do, if I go 0.1 that direction and 0.1 that direction, okay. If it welds the vertices, it's not perfectly on, I can live with that. So modify, weld vertices, you and you and you. Anything else happening down here? These also need to be welded. Like, it's just too close. Like, you couldn't, like, it's not really manufacturable. So same approach, modify, bring you over 0.1, bring you over 0.1, 0.15. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing. Weld the vertices while they're close. That way there's no really dramatic change. And I have a suspicion that there's like a surface in there that's like just no bueno. Because I can rebuild these, I'm not really worried about it. Alright, no surfaces on the inside. That's good news for us. So it's not so much that surface that I'm worried about. This is what I'm worried about, like this impossible to deal with surface. So delete, delete. Any other faces or obstructions we need to know about? No, not so much. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Like, sometimes you just need 3. Well, I can't make 3 with this. This is always looking to 4. I'd like 3. I don't have it. So this is our workaround. Think about this as a triangle. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to make the base of the triangle. And then I'm going to use, almost like I'm being lazy, I'm just going to fill the hole. Fill that hole. Okay. Right click. Repeat. And fill that hole. Okay. So, done with box mode, at least for the moment. Nothing broke. If it can't go back to smooth mode, you got to go back and modify. All right. Like, pretty stinking curvy, but I think that's more manufactured. We could actually get a tool in there if you wanted to. So everything I do from this point would be just cleaning things up. Like, this is actually sitting a little bit too low. I believe if I move that face in this direction, as long as I don't move too far, I think we're okay. Actually, I could rotate it just a notch. Okay. Decent continuity there. That point, just push you in just a little bit. Did we break anything? Nope, good. And then really everything from this point on is like just me doing sculptural aesthetic changes. I have all the pieces together, just a matter of, do I like the way it looks? I would still spend more time on that, but that's not really important to this lesson. Biggest thing, using symmetry when you need it, having control over finer points, and being able to kind of go in and do surgery when you have faces that aren't really agreed with one another. Man, that's about it. That's about it. I think I did pretty good on this one, to be honest. So bike frame, but before we go, like, it's too good of an opportunity. We're gonna jump over to the render. Oh my goodness, look how glossy this is. It's a bit too matte, but while we're here, let's go into, I don't want to mirror finish. Mirror finish is too much. I do like some gold. Polished gold. Yes, come on. That's what I'm talking about. It's totally over the top, but you know, we're at home quarantining. You might as well go over the top with some things. So that's your lesson. Bike frame. We'll get into a different style of approach come Tuesday. Enjoy.